magari tolgo la telecamera quando bevo.
Il cane vuole fare la presentazione.
Il mio cagnolino, vieni qua.
Sì.
Vieni qua, fatti vedere a tutti i ragazzi. Vieni, vieni, Maya, qua. Così iniziamo un seminario da cani. Vieni.
Da cani, sì.
Eccola,
Sì.
girati,
Molto bene.
muso.
Sì.
Buonasera.
Ok, salve. Ah, ciao Maria.
Sono.
Brava. Allora do inizio alle danze. Ok, let me present you Ioana Galleron. She's a professor of French literature and digital humanities at the Université Sorbonne-Nouvelle. Je ne sais pas qu'est-ce que c'est la Sorbonne-Nouvelle, mais peut-être que tu vas expliquer.
Yeah.
She's a member of the pronounce in lattice.
Lattice. As a lattice.
Lattice. Okay, is a research team, and is on the board also in Cahiers consortium. That's the link is in hypothesis.org. So cahiers.hypothesis.org. She's currently engaged in the digitalization of the Dictionnaire universel. Sulla direzione d'Antoine Furetière, dans la version passo al francese in inglese, in the version of the 18th century, and that is revised and by BasNum de Beauval. She is also working on the French theater from the 17th and 18th century, using various computational methods to uncover trends, patterns, and similarities. So, Ioana, we are really happy to have you here, and I strongly think that your speech about this great dictionary should be very interesting for our students, and so this now is your turn, please.
Well, thank you very much. I will start sharing. You tell me if you see my screen.
I see your screen. Now you can start the presentation.
Okay, I hope you see the GROBID Dictionaries.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are good. I can put it in. Let me just mention that right now I can't see anymore if there are any questions or someone wants to engage. So please use the microphone if you want me to stop, or if you want to ask a question or something else.
I check for hands on, and don't worry about this. If someone wanted to talk, please push the hand button in the screen.
Great. Okay, so
Ioana, maybe you have to put in the presentation mode.
I already did.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
Normally it's in the presentation mode.
Okay.
I hope you see it in the presentation mode, because it's in my case it's.
Please switch in the slides.
Okay, so I'm in the slides now. So you should see on the side I have the pathway of slides, and now if I'm doing in the presentation mode, here, can't you see it as a presentation mode? Okay. Well, maybe let me try and share otherwise. Maybe I should. Okay, I'll start again and I will share the whole screen. Maybe this is why. Okay. Is this better?
It is better. This is good.
Great.
Okay.
So, for those amongst you who maybe know a little bit of French, the title of this presentation may be a little bit strange because we are talking about a GROBID. GROBID means a big belly in French. And it's not a coincidence. It's just the computer scientists' minds who decided to designate this tool as a big belly. And yes, it's a very big belly which absorbs lots of informations and then tries to restitute them and to annotate them. I will try to show how we got there. I must give a specification here. Myself, I am a literary scholar. I did not have previous training in computer studies or anything, so I had to learn quite a lot of things. And you will see that we had to do it. So I will be first talking about the Dictionnaire universel because it has its own story, which is quite fascinating between the various authors. It has been published several times in several editions with various modifications. So this in itself, it's quite interesting from my point of view. Another topic I will deal with is the challenges of the TI format for digitizing the Dictionnaire universel, for digitizing actually any historical dictionary, because they have idiosyncrasies, and TI is, even if TI is very flexible, in many cases we are at odds with what we can do and what is in the text. Then I will be talking about the main question, which is the speeding up of the digitization with automated and semi-automated ways, such as Transcribus and GROBID dictionaries. I will talk a little bit about the post-editing phase of the project. We are now in this post-editing phase, and I will try to draw some conclusions about what you have to expect when you go on the path of digitization of a dictionary with digital tools. Now, a few words about the Dictionnaire universel. The Dictionnaire universel is the creation of Antoine Furetière. I give you the dates. Antoine Furetière was a member of the Académie Française. He was part of the endeavor of the Académie Française. The Académie Française, at its creation in 1630, had the mission of creating the first comprehensive dictionary of the French language. But since 1630s, we are now, when Furetière joins the Academy, it's 30 years later, and 30 years later, the Academy has not advanced beyond the letter A. It is very, very slow. There is a joke in the 17th century saying that people were praying God to give them life to see the letter G of the dictionary, because it would be already living a very, very long life. And Furetière is a little bit annoyed by this length of the creation of the dictionary, and especially there is another point where he is at odds with the other members of the Academy, is the idea of the bel usage. The Académie Française wants to normalize language, to indicate which is the right way of speaking, while Furetière is rather on another wavelength. It's to say that no, a dictionary must be a testimonial about the way people are speaking, regardless they are having beautiful way of speaking or ordinary ways of speaking. But the real conflict starts when he creates his own dictionary, trying to include all the words included in France of his days, and especially covering terms from sciences, from arts and crafts, because these three were considered as not being part of the bel usage. But Furetière says we need these terms, we absolutely need to have them in a dictionary. He wants to publish his dictionary. That's why he calls it universel. It's not the Dictionnaire de l'Académie Française, which is supposed to be the dictionary, the normative dictionary of the bel usage. He says, what I am providing, it's a cover-all dictionary, and that's why I'm calling it universel. But immediately he meets with very strong hostility from the Académie Française, where they say it's not good. Okay, I have apparently tells me that you are. I have a connection problem. Is this the case? Are you still hearing me?
Yeah, I'm. Okay. You're online and we hear you.
Great. So, sorry. He is accused of stealing entries already discussed in the Académie Française, and that he plagiarized the Académie Française. So there is a battle that follows, a long battle, an interesting one, during which Furetière tries to show the specificities, what are the specificities of his work on the dictionary, but he never manages to publish his dictionary in France. He dies in 1688, and the dictionary is finally published after his death in the Netherlands. It has immediately an enormous success. It sells everywhere. Sorry, I forgot to, success is still in French, as you may see on the screen. It is sold everywhere, including in France, and it will become one of the most influential dictionaries throughout Europe, both directly and indirectly. In the project we are engaged, we are looking at influence of the Furetière on Danish dictionaries, on Portuguese dictionaries, on a whole lot of other country dictionaries. Immediately, Académie Française speeded up the realization of its own dictionary, and in 1694 they publish both their own dictionary, Dictionnaire de l'Académie Française, and they completed with a Dictionnaire des Arts et des Sciences, a dictionary of arts and crafts, which has been realized by Thomas Corneille. It's the same year for both 1694. So you have here the three cover page of the dictionary. Was that a question?
I think that is a mistake. No.
Okay, great. So you have here the three pages. To the left, you have the page of the dictionary by Antoine Furetière. You can notice that there is no indication about the publication place, because at that time, of course, books printed in the Netherlands had some problems in penetrating the French market. So the Arnoux and Rainier Leers, who are the publishers in Rotterdam, don't want to steer a red rag, and they send their book without saying where it has been published, but everybody knows that it has been published in the Netherlands. This is the Dictionnaire de l'Académie Française. Well, actually, I did not put the 1694 edition because it had several editions. This is the third edition in 1740, but on the far right, you have the 1694 page, cover page of the Dictionnaire des Arts et des Sciences by Thomas Corneille. It says that it's by Messieurs de l'Académie Française, by the members of the French Academy, but it is not. Actually, we are very sure that it's only Corneille who worked at this dictionary. So, what happens next? Immediately, the publishers in the Netherlands decide to revise and to enlarge the dictionary, because they know that they are concurrence now by the Dictionnaire de l'Académie Française, and they pick up Henri Banage de Beauval. He's a Protestant lawyer in exile because in 1685 France decided that only Catholics are to exist in the Kingdom of France. The Catholicism becomes a state religion, and the Protestant must convert or flee. And many of the Protestants went to the Netherlands or to England or to Switzerland so as to have religious freedom. And Banage de Beauval is one of those. He's a he's a member of a very well-known, respected family from Normandy, and his heart is broken when he goes to the Netherlands, and we think that probably he accepted to work on the Dictionnaire universel because this allowed him to stay in contact with the language and with the culture of his mother country, of his home country. He's also, Basnage de Beauval, he's also the director of an influential literary and philosophical journal of that time, Histoire des ouvrages des savants. This journal has been initiated by Pierre Bell, a philosopher well known in the Europe of the time, and it's a very big sign of trust from Pierre Bell to ask Basnage de Beauval to continue this Histoire des ouvrages des savants. He is engaged by Lears to compile a revised and enlarged version. We think that he started as fast as 1696. We are having some data from the dictionary that suggested, but he finishes his revision 5 years later. In any case, so the dictionary is published in the second edition of the Dictionnaire universel is published in 1701. It is not only a second edition. We consider that it is a new work, not only because it has a considerable increase in the number of pages. It's more than 30% of pages. He adds entries and he makes addition to virtually every entry. He also uses experts to write scientific entries. For instance, the botanical definitions are completely rewritten with very small exceptions. So he is the one who gives a truly encyclopedic orientation to the dictionary, and this is why we wanted to digitize it, because we wanted to see how much of this dictionary by Basnage de Beauval goes into the great encyclopedia by Diderot and d'Alembert, and from there on to other encyclopedic works in the 18th and maybe 19th century. I just want to show you something. I will stop the presentation for a moment. I hope do you see me? I don't know if you can.
Yes, we see you.
Okay. Because I just wanted to show you this is the half of a volume. We have printed it again on paper, and it's double page, okay, and this is only a sixth of the dictionary, just to give you an idea about what we are talking about if you never saw one of those dictionary at that time. So 6 times this, and you can imagine what it is. Okay, I'm getting back on the presentation. So to further indicate why this is encyclopedic dictionary and why it's so interesting to work with it and to try and digitize it, I wanted to show you this. This is a very recent work we were able to perform thanks to the digitization. We could count the terms from each domain in the Dictionnaire universel. You have here on the left the terms in decreasing order of frequency, the terms that come in the Furetière's version, and on the right you have the Basnage version. And what you can see is that the top list is quite similar. Very strangely, this is something we didn't realize before digitization and the power of digitized tool to show up what it is there. The maritime domain, it's really the most important, but as you can see, it's medicine, chemistry, also pharmacy, geometry, carpentry, botanics, foreign words. These are coming up in the second version of the dictionary. They occupy a very large part of the dictionary, with really sometimes 8 times or even 10 times increases, 10 time fold increases in the numbers. I did not give you the whole list. Furetière has something as 90 to 100 domains. In Basnage, we are having 180 domains, so the double of the number of domains. He really went to listen to people working in various arts and crafts. He really discussed with scientists from various domains, and he asked what are the terms they are using in their specialties and what those terms means, and he put them in the dictionary. Of course, Furetière paved the way. He had the idea that this is something that has to be done, but it is BasNum who really does it. I have put here the new cover page of the dictionary, title page of the dictionary. You can see at the bottom that now we are having the publication place à la Haye à Rotterdam. We have now the publishers, Arnoux and Rainier Lears, the date, 1701, and BasNum de Beauval, second edition, Revue Corrigée Augmentée. But the most important, I know you cannot see it very well, but what you have here in the middle, between the title, Dictionnaire universel, you have a kind of a description about what is to be found in the dictionary: philosophy, logic, physics, medicine. We looked at all these terms and we realized that most of these terms weren't really covered by Furetière. Probably these are the publishers having put this title, and we think that BasNum had the title, so he made sure that yes, the dictionary was really covering these various domains which are mentioned here. So he fulfills the promise of the Dictionnaire universel that Furetière initiated. The life of the dictionary doesn't stop there. In 1702, there is a pirated publication of the Dictionnaire universel in France. It's a 2-volume publication. We are looking into it, but we are in the middle of the process of digitizing it. More notably, in 1704, a group of Jesuits, so the religious group, in Trévoux, it's one of the small town in the east part of France, they published their own Dictionnaire universel, which is actually a plagiarized version of the Dictionnaire universel. The only thing they did, the most notable thing they did, they took out everything that could be considered as being Protestant, because BasNum from time to time, yes, I wouldn't say that he did any religious proselytism or militantism, but from time to time, he tried to give the other view on religious matters, the view of a Protestant view on religious matters. And all that disappears in the Dictionnaire universel, with the Jesuit of Trévoux not even mentioning that they have used heavily at 90%, even 95%, the material of the Dictionnaire universel. Therefore, Lears were under pressure of replying on their side, and they reply with the 3rd edition of the Dictionnaire universel in 1708, again revised by BasNum de Beauval. This time around, he's not in very good health, and he's not having the time he needs. So we are in the process of evaluating the correction that he did, but we think that he mainly corrected what was wrong in the 1701 version and did not really added new information. The 4th edition appears in 1727. This time it is after BasNum's death. BasNum dies in 1710. And the revision is provided by Jean-Baptiste Brutel de la Rivière, and this time is really treason to the initial idea of the dictionary. Jean-Baptiste Brutel de la Rivière is a very religious person himself. He's a pasteur Protestant, and he exerts a form of moral censorship. For instance, he will ban outside the dictionary the word vagina because it depicts something that has not to be discussed, has not to be known. Everything pertaining to the female body is not to be emphasized in the dictionary. But this way he misconsiders the very nature of the Dictionnaire universel. Why the story of the Dictionnaire universel stops there? Mainly because Arnoux and Rainier Lears do not have any inheritors, so their publishing house disappears when they die, and their books are bought by other publishers, but they are not interested in dictionaries. So this brand of the Dictionnaire Universel disappears, and it is ready to be picked up by the English publishing houses with the Cyclopedia by Chambers. You probably have heard about that. And after the Cyclopedia by Chambers, of course, the Encyclopédie by Diderot d'Alembert. Now, digitizing the dictionary. We started to work on this in 2015. I'm not speaking about myself at the plural. It's really because I am not working alone on this. I am working within a team. It's a team called Licorne, and you can go on our website and see what we are doing. So we started very simply as a team project with we were looking at a text that could be used to teach students to understand the wealth of TI. TI means Text Encoding Initiative. But as we started to work, we realized that it is a very interesting work. And then we asked for a labelization by Cahiers. Cahiers has been already mentioned. Cahiers, it is a coordination structure in France. It's a group, it's a research group that reunites people from basically the 80 universities in France. And we try to coordinate our endeavors, our digital endeavors. Cahiers is only about digital edition of texts of authors. In 2017, our project started to interest computer scientists, and we signed a partnership with INRIA. INRIA is a National Institute for Research in Computer Sciences. And in 2018, we have been funded by ANR to develop the digitization, to realize the digitization of the Dictionnaire Universel from 1701, to create a workflow for digitization and to bring the proof that this workflow for this digitization can work on other historical dictionaries and on other historical resources as well. So, what is our workflow? Well, this was the projected workflow with the idea that we were starting with a PDF. I did not put it here, but at the beginning, you should imagine a PDF, the book I've just shown to you. We were about to do some text acquisition with Transcribus, an optical character recognition with Transcribus, training a specific model under Transcribus so that the recognition might be good. We said that this first version will be already in open access. This here, Nakala is also a part of the digital infrastructure we are having in France. It's an institutional repository in which all data produced in the consortia or even in the university is supposed to be stored so that it stays there for long-term conservation and for retrieval by other projects if they want to reuse it. You can go on Nakala, you can find all our outputs. Then we were to have a second version of the dictionary. So the first version would have been just as a plain text, simple text from authorization, as a result of authorization. The second version would have been a version produced with GROBID Dictionaries. So we were preparing in parallel a TI schema, way of decision about how to encode different parts of the dictionary. Then the GROBID output would have some post-treatment with XSLT, then some manual correction, and from this manual correction, we would have had a third version, which would have to be deposited raw in Nakala, and also afterwards presented to the public via web interface so as to do a bit of a crowdsourcing for correcting some errors and for consultation. Well, as all the workflows, this one was an ideal one, and the reality is a much more mixed one. So this is what actually happened. Instead of training one model for authorization with transcribus, we had to train 3 of them. So we actually have 3 versions of the text, of the plain text, each one being better than the previous one, but obviously one shot wasn't enough. Also, we had several goes to GROBID dictionaries, going back to transcribus to correct certain things, so going back to GROBID again. The schema did not went only in this sense. We modified the schema because we realized that GROBID dictionaries won't be able to handle certain things that we have. And even at the XSLT post-treatment, we realized that we have to get back on GROBID, to get back on transcribus, and then to do the whole chain again so as to have exactly what we had in mind. So I don't even count anymore at what number of version we are at. We know that we have deposited several of these versions on Nakala. One of these versions will be considered beautiful enough, stable enough, so as to go towards the web interface and to go to Nakala. But right now we are here in the, well, we are in the process of the manual correction, and we are quite happy with what happened. I'm giving you here a view about what the dictionary looks like. It is I showed you the book. It is a very big book. On each page there are 2 columns, and what you will find short entries, very short ones. You see that an entry starts with capital letters, cartonnier, and then you have this. This is a letter, I don't know if you have it in Italian. It's what is called in France S long. It is very much used until the middle, even the end of the 18th century in France, and then it disappears. It is completely replaced by the S rond. At that time, we have both the S long and the S rond, and then you have a definition. This is short entry, simple structure. Longer medium entries have already a more complicated structure because there is always, again, the head word, cartouche. Again, the grammatical information, this means SM, substantive, masculine substantives. And then a first definition, a first sense, but this paragraph here, it's not really a paragraph, would be a second sense, a third one, and a fourth. So as you can see, BasNum and Furetière do not always repeat the head word at the beginning of each sense. This is something which already poses a certain number of problems when compared with the modern dictionaries, and we will see other problems later. What you have underneath, cartulaire, voyez, cartulaire, voyez, chartulaire, it's pointer towards another entry. So these are to be encoded otherwise in TI. Underneath, I have put in green one of those botanical entries that have been completely rewritten. I will not enter into details, but if you look at the structure of the definition here and the structure of the definition here, it is not at all the same, because this is really an encyclopedical entry, which is much more interested in things than in words. There is a opposition between dictionaries are about words and encyclopedias are about things. Well, Dictionnaire universel, it's a bit of both. Okay, and this is a long entry. It's not finished, by the way. It's the entry for the word caso. And you can see here that also this kind of long entries will also have quotations. Here, some verses. Okay, there are other quotations. You can see the small capitals indicating that what comes before, it's a quotation from an author. It's not necessarily an author which practices the bel usage. It's BasNum picked up authors according to their capacity of illustrating a sense rather than for the bel usage. But this is one of his innovations that you will not find this kind of quotation in Furetière. Actually, we think that he built on a previous French dictionary called Richelet, but also that he was aware and he knew about the Dictionario dell'Accademia della Crusca. He used that also to illustrate, to think about this illustration with quotation of certain senses. Okay, all this, it's not trivial to annotate in TI, even if you don't want to do it automatically, even if you just want to do it by hand. Actually, you have here an example about the TI format that we had in our minds when we started the project. This entry, which is the entry for cartel, I picked another one from the letter C, was annotated entirely by hand. So I take it for granted that you are not familiar with the TI dictionaries, with the chapter on dictionary in the TI. So just let me know if you already know everything about it.
Most of the students have done the course not on TI, but on the text coding, but not all.
Okay, right. Well, if you are familiar with the idea of text encoding, the text encoding we are practicing is the text encoding as recommended by the TI, the TI consortium. So the TI says that for each entry in the dictionary, you are supposed to use the tag entry. We are adding on the tag an XML lang indicating the language and an XML ID, which is a copy of the head word, actually. There are two parts, if I can speak roughly, in a dictionary entry, the part about the form and the second part with the senses. In the form, we will have another tag art showing how it is written, and then followed by the grammatical group. Here we're having an indication about part of speech and about genre. And then in the senses, quite often in the dictionary, we are having first part, which indicates a usage, terme de charpenterie, term of carpentry, and then the definition. In other cases, there is no usage and the form is repeated. Okay, and then we have the definition, and we can have quotation, we can have examples, etc. So far, this is not complicated. It complied well. We thought that it will be quite straightforward. But when starting to dig into the matter, we started to have a lot of problems. We started to identify, for instance, a certain number of senses without definition. So the question was, okay, so we have the form here with the word carton. We have the usage, en termes de peinture, term of painting term, painter term, if you want. But what are we doing with what comes after? Se dit des dessins qu'on fait sur de fort papier pour les calquer ensuite sur de l'enduit frais d'une muraille où on veut peindre à fresque. So, what are we doing with this? Should we annotate it as note? Should we say that despite the absence of a real definition, this should be a definition? And there are other possibilities offered by the TI. So we are still in the middle of thinking what are we going to do with this kind of senses without definition, which actually provide encyclopedic information about a thing and not about the word. Another problem we are having is when BasNum is putting etymologies in his text, but instead of saying this word comes from this word, he says that all these words are coming from that word. For instance, after abattre, abatture, abavant, he says that all these words are coming from the Greek word as, which means profound, deep, basso. Well, the problem is that you have nothing in TI allowing you to attach one etymology to several previous entries. So right now we are leaving the etymology in the nearest entry. Here it will be in Abavant, but we are still thinking about how we will be dealing with this when we arrived to the presentation on the web interface. Also, because it is a historical dictionary, BasNum, Furetière, Rutel de la Rivière, and even Diderot and d'Alembert later, they do not do things in a formatized way, in a formatted way. I mean, they don't have TI and they don't have telex and other modern tool for working with dictionaries. So, for instance, pronunciation. Most frequently, pronunciation is to be found after the grammatical group in the form part of the entry. Okay, so like here, adversaire, pronounce the D. Okay, after the grammatical group and everything. But for affublé, in the middle of the sentence number 2, after a definition, at the end of the definition, we are having les Normands prononcent affubé. So another pronunciation. Once again, the TI schema doesn't allow us to annotate here with pron. So there is always constantly thinking about how we will go around the difficulties of a TI schema while remaining faithful to the dictionary and interoperable. Another problem we are having, and it's much more linguistic one, is the related entries. BasNum, the Académie Française started with the idea that they will not do an alphabetical dictionary. Well, it will be alphabetical to some point, but their idea was to group words by their, not their etymon, their radix, you know, and this, to some point, goes to BasNum also and to Furetière. They do a real alphabetical order, but from time to time, instead of doing a new entry for a new concept, they put a concept under a parent concept it's related to. For instance, here you are having allée de traverse, which is related to allée. It's alley, the walking path, if you want. And we hesitated a lot if allée diagonale. Here we are just having an epithet, an adjective modifying allée. It's not the same thing as if you have a modifier, a complement, you know, a noun complement. Should we have both as being related entries, or should we consider that this is a related entry and this is a sense with a segment, with a collocation in allée diagonale and in allée biaise? So this is also an ongoing question, and actually we decided to wait to have the whole dictionary annotated with related entries as we did here, and then to do a post study to decide if BasNum and Furetière had an idea about this kind of differences. Now I will start to talk about the
Ioana,
yeah,
sorry. It's some slides that we see the slides on the right of the screen. Maybe you had.
I don't know. I
so I see the slide cut.
Okay, right.
Just
well, I'll try to share again my screen.
Okay.
And if
this is better. And now okay.
I put it again.
Okay, this is right.
Okay, well, I don't know what happens.
Okay, it's okay.
Good. So this is a very simple slide. It's just to show you that I always showed you, I mean, here, for instance, you can see, okay, you probably cannot really read the text because I made it very big, but you can see that the letters are very black and behind the letter is very white. But actually, to arrive at this, we did quite a lot of treatment of the images. We had the images we started with are these. And as you maybe can see, it's very bad quality because the contrast between the letters and the background is not good. Also, you can see the verso of the page here. There are lots of other accidents on the page, so we had quite a lot of working with the images so as to clean them, so as to render them the better legible for transcribers, because it has a tremendous impact on transcribers performances. For those amongst you who don't know, are you familiar with transcribers? Do you know what transcribers is?
Someone of us, yes, of course, but not all.
Okay, so Transcribus is a tool for optical character recognitions that offers the user the possibility to train his or her own model to recognize the letters. So instead of having a generic reader of the PDFs that will read more or less well according to the quality of the scan and the quality of the standardization of the typeset, Transcribus will allow to recognize non-standardized typeset and even manuscripts. You can go online and look at Transcribus and you will see several demonstrations. So the quality of the OCR has a tremendous impact on Transcribus performances, and it cascaded towards GROBID. The other problem we had is that Transcribus, it's a wonderful tool, but it has a problem. It's not retaining typographical information. For instance, if you look here in Ensanglante, you see that there are differences, important differences. The head word is in capital letters, and Ensanglante at the beginning of the second sentence is in small capital. But in spite of the fact that we annotated this as being in small capitals, when Transcribus gives out the result, it gives it simply in one capitalized letter and everything else in normal letter, so normal typeset. So we had a problem there. Also, it's not recognizing italics. Once again, this is not because we did not mark them up. We did mark them up in Transcribus, but it's not recognizing it. Since we worked with Transcribus, they found a way of doing this better, but it was already, let's say, too late for us because we had to move to the next levels. But for GROBID, this is a problem because it loses information here in the text layer of the PDF produced by Transcribus. And this impacts its own performances. The third problem we had are the constraints and affordances of GROBID dictionaries. GROBID Dictionaries works with a constrained annotation environment, Oxygen Editor, and well, if you are not familiar with Oxygen Editor, it's not that difficult to use it, but still it has quite strict requirements. Also, between the various models of GROBID, there are some that are having less good performances, and one of the models, which is called Lexical Entry, is a very delicate passing point. And I will speak in a minute about GROBID models. And last but not least, GROBID had been trained on 19th and 20th century dictionaries, which are standardized, so it has difficulties in handling idiosyncrasies of the Dictionnaire universel and of all historical sources. So we needed to adapt it, an adaptation that had to be written in Java completely by a computer scientist. Now, what is GROBID Dictionaries? It's a tool for an automatic extraction of TI structures from digitized dictionaries. You can have information in this paper by Kemakem and all. It takes as an input a PDF, a special kind of PDF, a double layer PDF, and it gives as an output a TI compliant, an XML TI compliant lexical resource. GROBID Dictionary is a part of a larger system called GROBID. You can find information in Romari and Lopez. GROBID is actually what Mendeley uses for recognizing bibliographic information in journal papers and so on. It is based on something that computer scientists called conditional random fields, CRF, and uses, I don't know if you really want to know this, but I'm just saying it, probabilistic models for sequence labeling tasks. Basically, what it does, here you have the architecture of GROBID, of the GROBID system. It starts with a PDF. First, it will cut the running head and the bottom lines that are sometimes carrying typographical signs, for instance, let's say the page numbers. It will cut this, the head and the bottom. So it will segment the dictionary into a body, a head note, and a footnote. Then it takes the part segmented as body, and there is a second model coming, dictionary body segmentation, that will look at the entries. At this time, it looks to separate the columns from the head of the columns. Remember that our dictionary was on 2 columns, and very often dictionaries are on several columns, and the columns don't only have entry as information, they also have head of columns and other information. Then this entry goes to the next model, which is lexical entry. And here, yes, we're having a problem because there are lots of various information that have to be split by GROBID. It will split the lemma with its variant, or maybe the inflected forms. It will recognize the etymologies, the grammatical group, the senses, maybe the sub-entries, if the dictionary has some sub-entries, the external references, the cross-references, and the related entries. Then for each of these, you can see that you have other models that have other models underneath, and so on. So the idea is that GROBID works with a zoom system that recognizes, that goes deeper and deeper and recognizes more fine-grained information. How does it work? So you start by creating samples from your PDF. You don't give it from the beginning the 3,000 pages of the dictionaries. Out of these 3,000 pages of the dictionary, you have to pick up samples. Samples will have somewhere between 4 and 6 pages, and you don't work with only one sample, you need several. The samples are presented to GROBID for preparation. So it's not GROBID, it's not the preparation of GROBID, it's GROBID who is preparing the samples. It takes the PDF and creates from the PDF, from this double-layered PDF, it creates XML files to be annotated, as well as a TXT file and a raw TXT file. The raw TXT file and TXT file, for the moment, you don't touch. One works on the XML file. The XML file has to be manually annotated according to the rules, to GROBID rules. So, for instance, if you are at the first level of dictionary segmentation, you have to manually put on the samples, this is a head note, this is the body, this is a footnote. Okay. Then the annotated file, actually files, you put them together with the PDF sample files, and both go into GROBID. And GROBID will create a first model, a first trained model, so dictionary segmentation. The same operation are to be repeated for the next levels. And then one takes the full PDF, the levels, it goes back to GROBID, and I don't know if you see it here, GROBID gives you the fully annotated file. Okay, so what are the problems in working with GROBID? I try to move this, but it doesn't work. Yeah, okay. Problems in working with GROBID that it's finally much more gridded than expected. We thought that we were told that with 10 to maybe 15 examples, we should be okay for training the various models. Well, it actually hasn't been okay. And going from 50, we started with 15 samples, and then we ended up with 40 samples. 40 samples annotated for each level, and you have seen that there are a lot of levels. It's a lot of work. Also, we did not very well at the beginning how to select samples. You need to have a balance between variety and regularity. The whole work has to be fairly represented. For instance, one cannot pick up samples only in 1 or 2 or 3 letters. You have to have samples from each letter, but also from each volume, because the typeset varied a little bit between the volumes. And in some cases, it's even wiser to have more samples from a letter than from the others. It's always a matter of balance. For etym and XR, so etymologies and the cross references are not that frequent in the dictionary. So at the beginning we had samples and we thought that GROBID will be able to handle those, but finally it appeared that it had too little information to get trained. So it had a lot of problems like that. In annotating, there is a specific treatment of the punctuation and of the line breaks. Even if you are familiar with XML, with text encoding, it's not that easy to understand why GROBID in some cases will have to put punctuation inside the tags and sometimes outside the tags. Also, at some point in the treatment of the text, one can remove some parts from the XML file, but in that case you have to touch the TXT file. Also, you remember that GROBID produces 3 files, and there has to be a very strict resemblance between the two. And also GROBID needs to simplify certain encodings, because finally a human being is much more able of understanding the structure of the dictionary than GROBID. Just to give you an example, I'm sorry, I did a mistake here. Just to give you an example, you have to the left the annotated XML file. So you see that it's very nicely colored. We did has been annotated as form, and this is a sense. But at some point, you see at the beginning of the second sense, I have a V and a T, which are obviously a bad recognition of the text. If I want, I can change them here in XML. I can put j'obtiens, but I have to change it here too. This is the TXT file that GROBID produces. And you can see that it's much more difficult to find where it is. Actually, you have here obtenir, see, okay, a full stop, verb, active, it's on the first line. So you finally you can find it here, the VT obtient. Here, see, but it's not that straightforward to read such a TXT file. It looks a little bit as a CoINLL format for those amongst you who know the universal dependencies, but it's not exactly like that. So this is one of the difficulties in working with GROBID. Another problem is that we had to resign in radically simplifying the annotation, for instance, for definitions. The 2 parts that I put here, in our initial annotation, we were doing 2 definitions because these are 2 definitions when you read the text. But GROBID cannot handle a definition, something, and a new definition. So we decided that everything in the sense from the beginning of the sense till the end is a definition, and that we will do post-treatment probably with another tool to go deeper into recognizing quotation notes and some other things. Okay, I wanted to show you also how it works online, but my proposal is that I go till the end of my presentation, and then if we have some time, I will show you how it works. Okay, so the post-editing phase. This is what comes out from GROBID. So you see, it is an XML file. It is, let's say, a TI file. Well, as you see, Oxygen, it's telling me that it's not a really fully compliant TI file, and indeed it is not. It misses certain elements. There is also a problem of legibility, because sometimes here, je vous dis que mon fils n'a rien fait, it splits the information to encode it, so it's much more difficult to follow sometimes. And it still has encoding errors. GROBID is not perfect. It helps with speeding up encoding, but it needs to be corrected. So what we are doing, we are combining the automated and the manual approach, and we are still using the same cascade principle, meaning that we will focus on a level, solve the problems at that level, and then move to the next level. So what we are doing now, we did the first transformation for lots of things, such as putting the punctuation in place and correcting, for instance, some of the ampersand. I don't know why they have not been recognized as entities. We are adding a form type lemma before ort because GROBID recognized the words but cannot put orts directly in form. It's a very simple XSLT transformation, but it has to be done. We also add types on the forms with genre, inflection, variant spellings, and on the examples for verbal inflections. And the X have been recognized like this, voyez prévoyant. So GROBID knows that this is a cross-reference, but the TI Lex compliant annotation is this, voyez prévoyance. So this also, it's a quite simple transformation, but it has to be done after GROBID. For the manual corrections that came after this first phase, well, we still have some agglutinated entries. We had to check that the number of the senses per entry was correct. And in some cases, we don't know why, it recognized that we had usages, but it wiped blank the text. This is something that we're still investigating to try and understand why it happened. Then we did a second round of XSLT transformation with adding XML IDs on each entry. We pointed the refs to the corresponding entries. We added some ANAs on each usage and so on. So to reach to my conclusions, and then you will tell me if I have time to show you a bit of how GROBID works. GROBID is an efficient system. When we started in 2015, we never finished on the letter C. It took 2 years to manually annotate an incomplete version of C. It's a very beautifully annotated version because manually you can really do very fine annotation, but it would have been forever if we wanted to do the whole dictionary at that rhythm. So while with GROBID, it took 10 months, but we have the entire dictionary now. Also, well, the information may be less fine-grained, but we still have a wealth of data and we haven't fully exploited it. It provides an excellent base for further enriching with other systems, such as named entity recognition. We are running a named entity recognition system on it right now. And last but not least, GROBID is still evolving. It will take no more, soon it will take an alto input, meaning an XML input, and that will simplify things because it will be easier to correct typographical errors and other typographical information. Also, it moves from Java to Python, and it is even supposed to be integrated with a BERT system, which is a neuronal network system. The cons, the system, is that it's a really steep learning curve, not only in TI, but also in how to talk to GROBID, if I may say so. The annotation and training are not trivial, both in terms of time, in memory of the machine. You cannot do it if you don't have a good computer, even a very, very good one, and some space on a server. There are lots of correction to be done by hand, especially with regards with what I already said, the etymologies, the related entries, and the usages. And last but not least, better have a computer scientist in your team so as to make him adapt certain things to what you are doing. So this is all. Thank you for your attention. I realized that I did not, I'm giving you my contact details. Sorbonne-Nouvelle, because there was a question about this at the beginning of the presentation. Actually, you may know that in 1968, the Sorbonne University has been split in two. It has been split in the old Sorbonne and in the new Sorbonne. So Sorbonne-Nouvelle is actually Sorbonne. Our headquarters are in Sorbonne, but there was a a split for ideological reasons. Let's say that Sorbonne, old Sorbonne is to the right and new Sorbonne is to the left. So, but both are claiming to be the Sorbonne. So that's why we're called Sorbonne-Nouvelle. Okay, so if I remember correctly, the seminar is supposed to end at 2:30. So you let me know if I have time to show you a bit of GROBID.
Actually, thank you, Ioana. You can talk until 3:45, but the normal ending of the seminar is 3:30.
Okay.
And you can also, you have to let us show the how the GROBID works, and please do it.
So it works, it has an interface, but the interface won't come up if you are not writing some command line things. So I'm in my terminal or command line you have. I made a cheat sheet because I didn't want to spend too much time in writing the things. So first thing first, you cannot make work GROBID if you don't have something which is called Docker. Docker, its work is to create a bridge between my computer and the server where GROBID is hosted, so that both function as a mirror system. What I have on my computer goes on the server, and what is on the server comes on my computer. They need to talk like that. So you have to open Docker, and then you call GROBID. See, this is the command. I'm saying Docker to run. This is why I didn't want to write everything in front of you, because this is the pathway to where GROBID exists in my machine. And I asked it to call it up, so it did call it up. I will check that everything I switched to the BasNum branch, which is the branch that has been created by the computer scientists for our project. So it goes there. I just checked that the latest changes are made both on my machine and on the server. Okay, and now normally if you start working on a dictionary, here is where you tell it, go and look at that PDF file and transform it into an XML file. Me, myself, I already have all the files have been trained. I will just show you like that. So it's here. See, I have a data set with all the models. And for instance, let's take the dictionary segmentation, which is the first model. It has the PDFs are here, and here are the TI samples it produced. Okay, with others which are put in evaluation. It's a very straightforward training thing. I mean, you give it some things for training and others for evaluation. So, and every time that you train a system, it has a model WAPT, model full stop WAPT. So these are already on my machine. You have to produce them through annotating, but I already have them. So to speed up things, I will send them directly to the machine. Okay, I'm sending everything, all the models to the machine. Well, it tells me it's already up to date, but okay, it downloads everything that it needs. This takes a bit of time, I'm sorry, but it will come back at some point. So, don't hesitate if you have some questions right now. Time for the machines to discuss. I could have skipped directly to this step, but I was afraid that I wanted to show
how many people in your team, and which are the competencies in your team? So you at the end you say, okay, better have a computer science, but your team is composed by?
Well, at the beginning we were 4 researchers and quite a lot of students, because we are working closely with master students on this, and none of us us had competences. But since we worked with INRIA, in INRIA we had 3 other partners, and they taught us how to work with GROBID. Come on, it's not moving very fast. I think it's because I'm sharing both the screen and everything. It takes longer than it should. But if you have other questions, go on.
Ragazzi, se avete domande, cominciate a prepararvi qualche domanda, e alzare le mani e prenotarvi.
If you don't mind, I will stop sharing the screen for a moment because I think it will speed up yeah, it's speeding up the things. I will come back in a minute. Now it's downloading. I think it was too much for my connection to ask my system to communicate with the server and to share the screen at the same time. Good. So.
You have downloaded. You can share it now.
Yeah. I'm sharing again. Up. I'm sharing up. So you can see maybe that here I have a lot of things that I had a build success, and it came back to GROBID Dictionaries. And now I will open the server, the interface of the server. Let's hope it's not doing the same thing. So it's scanning for projects. Okay. Here. And now we are going, actually I'm opening a crawler, any crawler, but it's on my machine that things will happen. Localhost, of course. And here you have GROBID Dictionaries. So I go in Dictionary Service. I ask it to parse the dictionary. I select the file. I have prepared a PDF file. Open it, and I submit a query. So here it is. So it started with a PDF, and for the moment, the only thing it did, it separated the running head from the text and from the footer, from the footnotes such as tome 2. And then I have again a running head and so on. And then I do the second one, parse dictionary body. I submit again the query. And here it separates all the titles of the columns. Okay, and it gives me clean text inside without the titles of the columns. I can do the third level, lexical entries. This one takes more time, okay, but it starts doing senses, related entries. I'm looking for an etymology, but I cannot find it. Okay, see, enseigner, it separates each sense in, etymology, ce mot vient selon sommes de insinuare. It recognized all this. It recognized the enseveli, which is an adjective, which is related to the other ones, and so on. So this is the level. And if I want to parse the full dictionary, I will ask it to do the same. Okay, so it parsed the full dictionary, and now you can see that I have other things such as it recognized the grammatical group, participe passé adjectif. What can I give you? So la forme de verbe ensabler, it's a verb, active. Here it made an error because it should have put the verb here, and so on. So this is how GROBID works. This is how it works in fine, once you did all the levels and everything.
Thank you, Ioana. Thank you very much. And I ask for questions. One is from Maria Fissini. Prego, Maria.
Yes, actually, I need a clarification. What was actually the program doing? Producing the XML version of
Yes.
the dictionary? So starting from where?
You start from a PDF. You start
from the PDF.
You start from this. Okay. Actually, from this, you need to go to this, which is a double-layered PDF. So this one, if you look here, it looks like the first one, but actually it has underneath the image, it has a text, a recognized text. And from this double-layered PDF, it goes to GROBID and it produces this.
The XML.
The XML. Okay.
Okay, so but you mentioned that you had to fix the result by hand, right? So
what I have to fix,
it's not really perfect.
Oh no, it's not. It's far from perfect. It's far from perfect.
So you have to intervene in the output of this program.
Yes.
Okay. And then another question is, when you have the XML version, you actually have a more human readable version on the web or not?
That's what I'm saying. We will put it on the web at the end of the project. What we are interested right now is the fact that with this XML version, it's nothing to extract at once a lot of information. we could look, for instance, thanks to this, we can look at how many terms in maritime we have.